Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. A very warm welcome to Thursday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. On today's huge show, Stephen King loves the Flash movie. We will discuss it. James Gunn says he's nowhere near casting his Batman. He's undecided on an age. And on the final part of the show, we have to talk about something really negative, because I love Christopher Reeve's Superman, but all because the Snyderverse fandom, a portion of them are triggered by James Gunn saying that he loves the Superman 78 movie. They're attacking Christopher Reeve's Superman's record of being the Boy Scout Superman. This is how much of a pathetic fan base a section of them are, and we will discuss it at the end of the show. But first of all, you've got to be very, very aware now there are multiple advanced screenings for the Flash movie. Many people are seeing the movie and are reacting to the movie on Twitter and on social media platforms. Now, thankfully, people are being respectful and not giving out any spoilers. I mean, look, I know what this movie is. There's going to be no surprises for me, and I think there's going to be not many surprises for most of you either. But just in case you've kept out the loop, which is good for you because you're going to see all the surprises, and I'm not going to spoil them for you, at least on this video. But Stephen King has seen an advanced screening of the Flash movie and says he loves it. He says he doesn't really like superhero movies, but he loved this one. It's interesting. Maybe he's a Flash fan. I don't know. This is a tactic that WB and Zaslav have been using more and more to promote the Flash movie. Is it a tactic that's going to work? For example, if he innocently was watching an advanced screening, why did he have to tweet that he loved it? Because obviously that's part of the deal, isn't it? Watch it, and if you like it, say you like it on social media. One fan actually quote tweeted him with a gif of him counting money like he's been bribed by WB. Now, I'm not trying to say that's true, but it doesn't come across very, very well. Tom Cruise apparently loved the movie. Now, look, who's going to doubt Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise doesn't need the money. There's no reason why. I don't see how Tom Cruise would, go and watch a movie and be told, say you like it, because who tells Tom Cruise what to say? Don't forget, Tom Cruise has a reputation. By the way, did you see the first trailer, or the latest trailer at the very least, of the latest Mission Impossible movie? It's part one of two. It's a 2-chapter movie as well. The trailer was fantastic, wasn't it? I apologize for not reacting to that trailer, but there's only enough, minutes and hours in a day. I just thought I mentioned that I'm very excited for that movie. So if Tom Cruise says he loves the Flash movie, I am a little bit cynical about the situation, but I'll take your word for it, Tom. Now we've got Stephen King saying it's great. Now, look, James Gunn also has said it's great, but James Gunn is the co-CEO of DC Studios. Again, I'm not accusing James of being dishonest. Listen, I've seen a test screening. I know what this movie is. It certainly wasn't a terrible test screening. I personally enjoyed what I saw. I still didn't see anything to tell me that this is one of the best CBMs ever made, but they're the reactions that are going on around me. So clearly, the finished article is in a superior position than the test screening was. So I can't attain to their honesty. I can't attain with whether or not I agree with them. And so it is an interesting tactic by WB. So you're going to get a lot of these positive reactions now, because as I say, they're doing more and more advanced screenings. Hey WB, send an advanced screening here in Cyprus. The Cyprus Mall, Nicosia, Cyprus. Come on, not Cyprus in America, Cyprus. Does any American actually know Cyprus, ever heard of Cyprus? Look it on your map. I mean, I'm practically in the Middle East. I'm in the EU. It's an EU territory. So let me know if you actually work out where Cyprus is. Ayia Napa, baby, the place to be. Where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Take me home. Love living in Cyprus. So, yeah. So it's an interesting tactic that WB are using, huge names, celebrities, important people to watch their movie, then tweet that they love the movie. So, look, when people hear things like that, it's going to be impressive. When the general audience go, oh, this one liked it, that one liked it. But there is a huge question mark about the Flash movie and in terms of the general audience. We know that us Flash fans, us DC fans in general, are going to go there and probably enjoy it and go there again and again and watch repeated screenings. We know that. I am. Most of you are. We know that. We know there's a section of the fan base who are going to boycott this movie because of Ezra Miller. Then there's the Snyderverse stans who claim they're going to boycott it but seem to know the whole movie. So that's an interesting thing as well we can discuss on a later date. But it's going to be interesting if the general audience are interested in seeing this movie. They didn't go and watch James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Very, very interesting. They didn't go and watch Birds of Prey or Black Adam or Shazam! Fury of the Gods. That's why those movies flopped. It wasn't DC fans that weren't in the movie theatres, Grace Randolph and everyone else saying, DC fans on Twitter and DC fans in the theatre. No, DC fans support the movies. It's not DC fans that are the problem. It's the general audience. And ever since 2013's Man of Steel, it's kind of the general audience have been dwindling at the movie theatres for DC movies. But away from the DCEU, Joker and the Batman, people did go. The general audience did go and support those movies. Why? What's the difference? Because they know it's nothing to do with one vision. They know it's nothing to do with, an infrastructure, a franchise they don't believe in. We had Man of Steel, then we had BVS, and then, even the first Suicide Squad kind of made money. It did make money. Insane. Wonder Woman made money. Justice League was the moment. But then, even after Justice League, $1 billion for the Aquaman movie. But then, it was Shazam. It was Shazam where things really started to go wrong. Because I know that BVS didn't make the money the studio wanted, and it's certainly a film with Batman and Superman should have made quadruple what it did. And Man of Steel needed to make more money than it did. But the real disappointment in box office really was Shazam. And from that moment on, it went from bad to worse. Now, probably the pandemic didn't help that either, but that's where it went wrong. And Hamada was certainly the wrong person for the job, and that's clear. So that's the big question mark. You can have Tom Cruise, you can have King Tut, right, saying, yes, go and watch the Flash movie, or off with your head. It doesn't matter. If the general audience don't believe in what you're doing, they're not going to support the movie. So I understand why Zaslav is desperately giving this one and that one advanced screenings. It's an interesting tactic, but is it a tactic that's going to work? That's the question I'm asking you today. Let me know. How much money do you think the Flash movie is going to make? What kind of domestic opening, global opening, do you think it's going to get? Is it even going to do as well as James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? How is Indiana Jones, the final Indiana Jones movie, going to do? And then we've got Mission Impossible in July. We've got the Dune sequel later on this year. We've got a lot of big movies this year. Big movies. Fast X, the latest Fast and the Furious movie, is going to do a 300 million opening weekend. Not bad, eh? Pretty good. So even though it's only got like 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, nobody cares. It's a popular franchise. People support those movies. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion what this film's going to make, one way or the other. So let's see if these tactics work. Of course they're getting these famous people to watch it and big the film up because that's the way they feel they can get the general audience to see the movie. Will the general audience take a punt on the Flash movie? Even as someone who kind of understands the box office to a point, I could never judge anymore what's going to happen with a DC movie. It's a very interesting movie, the Flash movie, because nobody knows how it's going to do. And it's going to be very interesting when we get the analysts predicting how much it's going to make in its opening domestic and global weekend. And I can't wait to find out how much it brings in on June the 16th. It's very, very exciting, isn't it? Now, James Gunn has been talking about his plans, or lack thereof, for his Batman. And his comments, yet again, are very, very interesting. Right now, he's developing his Superman Legacy movie. But by the way, there's a roadblock with the Superman Legacy movie as well. Because the Actors Union have now petitioned their members for a strike. The Writers Guild of America are now on strike. If the actors go on strike, there's no wiggle room. No actors, you can't do anything. It's done. Even if something's written, if there's an actor's strike and a writer's strike, Superman Legacy will be delayed. Everything will be delayed. So I think the actors are going to go on strike unless Hollywood panics and gives them a deal. You know, whether they give the writers and the actors both a deal, maybe they'll give the actors a deal and not the writers. But we need this strike to be over for Superman Legacy to continue. It's a big problem. But anyway, James Gunn says he's nowhere near to casting his Batman, and he's undecided on the age of his Batman. I think that James Gunn has got a lot of decisions to make with Batman. Does he have him cameo in the Superman Legacy movie? I suspect he does. But if he's undecided on the age of his Batman, then basically, as he says, he's nowhere near to bringing his Batman in terms of casting. If he doesn't even know the age. I mean, really, is he lying? Is he being honest? I don't know. Because I am stunned he doesn't even have a vision or a conceit on the age of his Batman. There's a bit of a problem there, isn't there? I mean, they obviously didn't like the idea of the older Michael Keaton Batman. So it's interesting. Could they bring back a former actor as Batman? I think Bale would be a good consideration. I don't know if Bale would do it without Christopher Nolan. I have my doubts. I mean, that would be the only former Batman I'd be interested in seeing back. Good age, great actor. He did that fucking 4 movie, so that means he's willing to do anything. He's willing to dumb down, if you like. So there could be a potential for Christian Bale returning. But yeah, I'm a little bit suspicious about James. I understand that James is nowhere near to casting a Batman. I mean, the process right now is to cast Superman. I understand. And the other, important characters and other characters in the Superman Legacy film he's writing and directing. I understand this, but not to even have an idea about the age is interesting, because James has kind of changed his mind about the age of his Batman as well. We've gone, it's the same with Superman. We've gone from one age to the other, because he knows if he casts a 40-year-old geezer to play Superman, people are going to say, well, Henry Cavill's 40. How dare you? So who knows what they're up to here? But I am surprised. I'm not surprised he's nowhere near casting Batman, but I am surprised he has no idea how old his Batman's going to be. Because if it were me at this stage, after releasing the first chapter of the Gods and Monsters slate, and the Batman film, which is The Brave and the Bold, you'd have an idea on how old this Batman is going to be. So if he casts a brand new Batman, what kind of age do I think he's looking at? He's clearly got an idea on how old his Batman's going to be. I think he's being a little bit disingenuous about the age. I just think he doesn't want to give too much away at this point. And you've heard the rumours about what happens with Barry Allen and Batman at the end of the movie. I won't go into that. I've mentioned it before. Let's not spoil it again today. But I think we are probably looking at a Batman who's around 25 to 30, maybe 35 at best. What kind of Batman have we had in live action? So we had the original 1960s Batman, who was young, but not too young. I'd say at the time, he was probably around 25 to 35, I think, maybe 40 at most, but I don't think so. Then we had Michael Keaton's Batman. Now, at the time, Michael was, without being disrespectful, was balding. He was probably around, 30, 40 years old. So he was a controversial piece of casting, but people loved him in the end. Then we had Val Kilmer, who actually I think is a much better Bruce Wayne and Batman than people give him credit for. Some people even prefer him to Michael Keaton. I mean, he's the suave Bruce Wayne that we kind of saw in the animated shows and movies at times. Yeah, I can see how people can rate him better as Bruce Wayne than Michael Keaton. Then there's George Clooney, which is an interesting one as well. Now, George obviously should never have been cast as Batman, but he was the darling of Hollywood at the time, so he got the gig. Very good actor. I thought the scenes between him and Alfred, when Alfred was dying of that illness, I thought were absolutely fantastic. And I really enjoyed that element. It was my favourite element of the film. I won't hate on George, but yeah, I wouldn't have cast him, and most of us wouldn't have cast him. I don't think the director cast him. I think the studio cast him for the role. So after they damaged the Batman franchise with Batman and Robin, Christopher Nolan came in and cast Christian Bale. This is one of the most out there amazing castings as Bruce Wayne ever, because at the time Christian was very famous for American Psycho. If you haven't seen American Psycho, you have to see it to believe it. It's a fucking insane movie. It really is. Talk about being a killer with a smile. I mean, amazing. So this was perfect casting to me, because what Christian and Chris do with this version of Bruce Wayne is show us the damage, the psychological trauma that's going on with Bruce Wayne. You see it when we see him walk back into the mansion, and the Wayne Mansion, Wayne Manor, and you can see the memories flooding back. You can see how much it hurts him. He's still not dealing very well with his parents' murder, because even though it happened many years ago, that thing's never going to fucking leave you. I mean, none of us have experienced something like that, but if we did, it would traumatize us forever. That's why, like the people who created, Batman, the great idea of having Batman see his parents being murdered as a young boy is genius. But Christian Bale, I mean, I really enjoy Batman Begins over The Dark Knight for one reason, because we get to see as much Bruce Wayne as we do Batman. The first half of the film is Bruce Wayne. It's his story. And they tried to do kind of a similar thing with Clark Kent in Man of Steel in the first half, but I don't think they pulled it off as well as they did with Christian Bale. The first hour of the movie is mainly Bruce Wayne, and that's why I really love Christian's performance. But then the second half of the movie, we get as much Batman as Bruce Wayne, and it's a Batman movie. You expect that. My issue with The Dark Knight, we see a lot less of Bruce Wayne and a lot more of Batman, which is really, really cool. But when you've got an actor like Christian Bale, you don't want to waste that face time. And that's why I prefer Batman Begins over The Dark Knight. Look, The Dark Knight is fucking amazing, one of the best films ever made. I'm not saying it's not, but my preference is always Batman Begins. Then you've got Ben Affleck, who's an outstanding Batman and an outstanding Bruce Wayne. He really is, I'm not going to say he's the best, but he's an older, grizzled, bitter Batman, cynical Batman. He's outstanding for what Zack wanted him to do. Then there's Robert Pattinson, another great pick. This is again going back to Batman Begins, but we're kind of in year 2. It is year 2, right? And so it's a different way of going at the same material. We don't see the origin, but we see that the death of his parents has affected him, like Christian Bale's version of the character, very, very deeply. Like Gunn's big problem right now is the Matt Reeves franchise, which is going great guns. They're doing a Penguin series, which has been interrupted because of the Writers Guild of America strike. So that's something else that's going to be delayed as well now. There's big plans for that franchise. So when you see that someone who understands Batman and loves Batman is doing something amazing, what do you do with Batman? It's very, very difficult, everyone. It's an impossible situation. I've explained this before. What do you do? I think you've got to do a Brave and the Bold. You've got to look at the animated series of Brave and the Bold and maybe Brave and the Bold and do something wackier, maybe like that. Get away from the darker Batman that we've seen thus far, that we're seeing in the Reeves universe, and do something a little bit cartoony, a little bit wackier. I think that would work for the DC universe. Let me know. I love the Snyderverse. I think that Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut are three of the most beautifully made movies I've ever seen. I love their narrative, I love their aesthetics, but there's portions of that fandom that I'm not friends with. And let me be absolutely clear. If you hate on the Smallville TV show to uplift the Snyderverse, if you hate on the Reeves Superman to uplift your Snyderverse love and your echo chamber, we cannot be friends. We have to part company. Now, sections of this fan base, let's be clear, the proportion, the majority of this fan base are wholesome people, and I love you, and you're part of my family. Absolutely, I love you, no problem. But there's a few of you, every time something kicks off, you have to attack the Christopher Reeve Superman. What has he ever done to you? The man's dead. Let him rest in peace. Imagine being his family, his children, his siblings, listening to you mock the man. Mock the man on something that everyone celebrates him for doing apart from you. Just because he's a smilier Superman, because he wears a brighter suit. In today's market, Superman the movie would have made $2 billion. It's a critically acclaimed movie. It won Academy Awards for its technical feats as well. The movie is celebrated. It's the most successful, most beloved version of a Superman movie ever. Facts. It doesn't matter what you do. Let me give you an analogy for the Snyder fans, a portion of the Snyder fans hating on the Reeves Superman. Basically, they're triggered because James Gunn loves Superman 78 and it's his second movie in his all-time ranking of CBMs. So let me give you an analogy. And the Snyder fans are going around, they've got this hashtag now, he's not a Boy Scout. So they're trying to prove that Christopher Reeve Superman wasn't a Boy Scout. I don't know what part of their orifice they pick this shit propaganda out from. So here's my analogy on the hate for Christopher Reeve Superman from sections of the Snyderverse fandom. Richard Nixon didn't understand why everybody loved President Kennedy and everybody hated him. Why do they hate me? I don't understand. Why do they love him? There's many people. I could say to you, why do you all love Chris Wong Svensson and why do I get 5 views and 2 likes? Because I'm doing something wrong and he's doing something right, and that's okay. Personally, I'm not bitter. It would be like me every morning, every video, attacking Chris because he's more successful than me. And this is the thing. That's my analogy on the hate for the Reeves Superman. The Snyderverse has a cult fandom, and that's okay. Henry Cavill's Superman has a cult fandom. It is not for everyone, and that's okay. Christopher Reeve's Superman, Superman the movie, directed by Dick Donner and written by the brilliant Tom Mankiewicz. He's the reason that 78 movie is on. No, nobody really talks about Tom. The man was a genius, and Donner brought him on. But it's basically what some of these Snyder fans can't accept is that Superman the movie is the Mona Lisa. It doesn't matter how many times you graffiti the Mona Lisa, how many times you draw a moustache on it. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be the Mona Lisa. And this is what happens with their hot takes about Superman the movie. You can hate that movie as much as you want. And James Gunn had the perfect answer for a Snyderverse stan who was critiquing James Gunn for loving Superman 78. He goes, this reminds me of Patty Jenkins when she was saying she loved Superman the movie, and look what happened with that movie. James Gunn responded because he tagged James Gunn in this post, and James Gunn goes, just because I say I love a movie, you think my movie is going to end up like Wonder Woman 84. It's clear that James Gunn has no love for Wonder Woman 84, and who can blame him? But I don't want to speak for him. I'm just making an assumption there. So it was right that James Gunn called this person out. Now, I noticed when I looked in the comments and stuff, I think James Gunn and the guy settled it, because I think the guy was a reasonable enough guy to say, you know, I'm looking forward to Superman Legacy, but this and that. And it's just bitter people. They're upset that a Man of Steel only made 650 million at the box office. They're upset that people criticize Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel. They're triggered that people suddenly are going after, the tornado sequence, the flashback, and critiquing it. But at the end of the day, can't you just enjoy a movie? Why do you have to attack Christopher Reeve's Superman because the next director of a Superman movie loves that movie? It isn't rocket science. Most people love Superman the movie. A lot of these directors working in the industry today love Superman the movie. And there's nothing you can do with that, about that. It is the way it is. People love Dick Donner's Superman movie. Now, luckily, I'm a sane human being, and I have the mental capacity to love Christopher Reeve's Superman movies and to love what Zack Snyder did. I adore Man of Steel. But as I keep on saying every day on this channel, I can also critique it and say it's not perfect. But I can also critique Superman the movie. The power source that Clark finds in the shed on the farm, which is green and looks like kryptonite, was a bit of a mistake there. It shouldn't have been green, because a lot of people say to me when they first watch the movie, is that kryptonite? So that's a little plot hole, if you like. And turning the Earth back on its axis and going back in time and everything that they did with that to bring Lois alive. There's so many plot holes. There's more holes than Delizah's bucket in that idea. But ultimately, we can enjoy movies. So Superman the movie is flawed. Man of Steel is flawed. I can critique both movies, but still love them. And that's the problem with the world we live in today. If you disagree politically today, you're enemies. When I disagreed with my friends 20, 30 years ago politically, there was no arguments. We just used to, cheers, let's have a beer, let's forget about it. But today, everything is a call to war. James Gunn clearly isn't a big fan of Man of Steel. He hasn't said anything against it, but he's never championed the movie either. So clearly it wouldn't be his idea of a Superman movie. We know what happened with the DCEU. We know the DCEU was problematic from the beginning. The decisions they made was never going to work out, because you can't have a mainstream DC universe that's for a cult audience, because you're not going to make the money the studio want to make. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is money. If you make something people love and something that most people, if not everybody, loves, then you'll make money. Zack Snyder is a cult movie maker. They brought in the guy who did Watchmen. Something that was very divisive yet again. And they thought it would be a good idea for this guy to make a Superman movie. Again, a Superman movie that I adore. A director that I adore, because I'm not a fan of the Watchmen graphic novel. But for people who are, they felt triggered by what Zack did. So when you see the reaction to Watchmen, the last thing you do is bring someone in to direct a Superman movie and then a Superman and Batman movie. It's something you do not do. That's on Christopher Nolan, but they only put Nolan in charge from the beginning because Nolan said, my mate Goya has a pitch for a Superman movie, and they thought, oh my God, they started coming in their pants. These are the guys who did the trilogy for The Dark Knight. Wow. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Then Nolan decides to bring in Snyder, and you're thinking, Chris, this is the guy who just made Watchmen. People ain't going to like this. This is going to be a bit of a problem. But hey, they did it. And they were digging themselves a deep early grave from that moment. So James Gunn is here to, build some foundations and do something that works for the general audience. And I'm happy with that. But I can also always enjoy the Christopher Reeve Superman, enjoy the Henry Cavill Superman, but say it's now time for a change. This has been Thursday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.